Welcome to Mystery Tales. I'm your host, Alexander. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the shadowy world of intrigue and deduction with a brand new original story inspired by the Queen of Crime herself, Agatha Christie. Settle in with a cup of tea, dim the lights, and let the waves of mystery wash over you. Chapter 1. Introduction and Setup. In the summer of 1927, the English seaside town of Eldridge-on-Sea glittered like a sapphire along the south coast of England. Its crown jewel was the Velvet Pier, a magnificent structure stretching half a mile into the English Channel, its weathered oak planks gleaming under the sun. Built in the Victorian era, the pier had been reborn in the 1920s with Art Deco splendor. Ornate ironwork curled like waves, and electric lights twinkled like stars against the dusk. At its far end stood the Grand Pavilion, a cathedral of glass and gilt where the elite gathered for balls, concerts, and whispered intrigues. Halfway along, a smaller but equally luxurious structure, the Harrington Pavilion, served as the private retreat of Sir Reginald Harrington, a shipping magnate whose wealth was as boundless as the horizon. Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective with a moustache as precise as his mind, had not come to Eldridge-on-Sea for a case. No, his purpose was far simpler: rest. His little grey cells, as he fondly called them, demanded a respite from the ceaseless puzzles of London's high society. Accompanying him was his steadfast friend, Captain Arthur Hastings, whose earnest demeanour and occasional naivete provided the perfect foil to Poirot's meticulous brilliance. "Ah, mon ami," Poirot had said as their train pulled into the station, the salt air drifting through the open window. "The sea, it is a balm for the soul. No murders, no mysteries, only the rhythm of the tides and perhaps a game of boulets on the shingled beach." Hastings, ever the optimist, nodded enthusiastically. "Quite right, Poirot. A bit of sun, a stroll along the pier, and no confounded crimes to spoil it. I say, have you tried the local scones yet? Simply marvellous with clotted cream." Poirot's eyes twinkled, though his lips pursed at the mention of scones. "Hastings, you and your English delicacies. For me, a tisane and the order of a quiet holiday will suffice." But fate, as it so often does in tales of this kind, had other plans. Poirot and Hastings had taken rooms at the Grand Eldridge Hotel, a stately edifice of red brick and white cornices that overlooked the pier like a sentinel. Its marble-floored lobby buzzed with the chatter of the wealthy, ladies in beaded dresses, gentlemen in tailored dinner jackets, and the occasional artist or eccentric drawn to the town's bohemian undercurrent. The hotel's terrace, with its wicker chairs and view of the Channel, was where Poirot intended to spend his days, observing the world with a detached amusement. On their first evening, an invitation arrived, delivered by a liveried porter on crisp cream stationery. Sir Reginald Harrington, the pier's illustrious owner, requested their presence at a gala in the Grand Pavilion that very night. A small gesture of hospitality, the note read, to honour Monsieur Poirot's renowned reputation. Poirot raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. "It seems, Hastings, that fame follows even to the seaside." "We shall attend, but only for the observation of human nature, bien sûr." The gala was a spectacle of 1920s opulence. The Grand Pavilion's domed ceiling sparkled with chandeliers, their light refracting through flutes of champagne and the sequins of flapper dresses. A jazz band played a lively tune, syncopated rhythms mingling with the distant crash of waves. Waiters glided through the crowd, offering canapés and cocktails, while the scent of jasmine perfume and cigar smoke hung in the air. Poirot, resplendent in a tailored black suit, his moustache waxed to perfection, surveyed the room with the precision of a watchmaker. Hastings, in his slightly less impeccable attire, marvelled at the glamour. "I say, Poirot, this is the life. Look at that chandelier. Must weigh a ton." Poirot's response was a murmur. "Observe, Hastings, not the chandelier, but the people. Their smiles, their glances, they tell a story more complex than any crystal." At the heart of the evening stood Sir Reginald Harrington himself, a towering figure at 62, with a mane of silver hair and a moustache that rivalled Poirot's in grandeur. His broad shoulders filled a bespoke dinner jacket, and his voice boomed with the confidence of a man who had built an empire from nothing. Harrington shipping spanned the globe, its vessels carrying tea from Ceylon, timber from Canada, and silks from Shanghai. Yet, beneath his jovial exterior, Poirot detected a flicker of unease, a tightness in the jaw, a glance that lingered too long on certain guests. Sir Reginald greeted Poirot warmly, clasping his hand with vigour. "Monsieur Poirot, an honour to have you on my pier. I've heard of your exploits. Solved that dreadful business in Mayfair, didn't you? Come, meet my circle. They're a lively bunch, though not without their quirks." Thus began the introductions, each revealing a thread in the tapestry of what would soon unravel into tragedy. First was Lady Evelyn Harrington, Sir Reginald's second wife, a vision of elegance at 38. Her raven hair was swept into an intricate updo, and her emerald eyes caught the light like the sea at noon. A former actress, she had traded the stage for a life of wealth 5 years prior. But whispers followed her like shadows. Gossip suggested the marriage was one of convenience, her beauty for his fortune, and that she had taken a lover, a young artist who frequented the Pier's bohemian haunts. Her motive, Poirot noted silently, could be the vast inheritance awaiting her should Sir Reginald meet an untimely end. Next came Mr. Victor Lang, Sir Reginald's business partner, a man of 50 with sharp features and a perpetual scowl etched into his brow. Lang managed the financial intricacies of Harrington shipping, but recent ventures in the Far East had soured relations. Over a glass of brandy, Sir Reginald had accused Lang of siphoning funds, a charge Lang denied with venom. The threat of a dissolved partnership loomed, and with it, Lang's financial ruin, a motive as clear as the Channel on a calm day. Miss Eliza Harrington, Sir Reginald's niece, was a striking contrast to the polished crowd. At 25, her bobbed hair and defiant expression marked her as a modern woman, an aspiring artist who dreamed of Paris ateliers. She had lived off her uncle's generosity, but a recent ultimatum had shattered their bond: marry a respectable suitor or be cut from his will. Her sketches, vivid and rebellious, adorned her room, but her funds were dwindling. Resentment and desperation, Poirot mused, were potent ingredients for motive. Mr. Thomas Black, Sir Reginald's valet of 15 years, was a quiet figure, his limp from a war wound barely noticeable as he moved through the crowd with trays of drinks. In his 40s, with a face as unreadable as a closed book, Black knew his master's secrets, perhaps too many. Whispers suggested Sir Reginald had discovered Black's gambling debts and threatened exposure, a scandal that could ruin the valet's modest life. Blackmail, Poirot noted, was a motive as old as time. Finally, Dr. Helena Voss, a renowned archaeologist of 45, cut a scholarly figure with her wire-rimmed glasses and measured speech. She and Sir Reginald had been engaged in their youth, but he had jilted her for his first wife, leaving scars that time had not fully healed. Now, her latest expedition to Egypt hung in the balance, for Sir Reginald had refused to fund it, citing her sentimental demands. A grudge, Poirot observed, could fester into something far darker. As the evening unfolded, Poirot's keen eyes caught the undercurrents beneath the gaiety. Sir Reginald and Lang exchanged heated words in a corner, their voices low, but their gestures sharp. Lady Evelyn danced too closely with a handsome stranger, her laughter a touch too bright. Eliza slipped away early, her eyes red with unshed tears, clutching a sketchbook. Black hovered like a shadow, his gaze never straying far from his master. Dr. Voss excused herself after a pointed remark from Sir Reginald, her face a mask of controlled anger. Poirot sipped his tisane, a delicate blend of chamomile, and murmured to Hastings, "Mon ami, the sea is calm tonight, but beneath the surface there is a storm. These people, they wear masks, but their eyes, they betray the truth." The gala drew to a close at midnight, the band's final notes fading into the night. Guests dispersed to their hotels or carriages, their laughter echoing along the pier. Sir Reginald, however, made an announcement that drew Poirot's attention. "I shall spend the night in my pavilion," he declared, gesturing to the private Harrington pavilion midway along the pier. "I need solitude to think, business matters. You understand." The pavilion, a glass-domed retreat surrounded by water on three sides, was accessible only by a locked bridge, guarded by a single attendant. Sir Reginald bid his guests farewell, his silver hair catching the moonlight as he crossed the bridge alone. Poirot watched him go, a sense of unease settling in his chest. "Hastings," he said softly, "I fear this holiday may not be as restful as we hoped." Chapter 2. The Crime Discovered. The dawn of July 12, 1927, broke over Eldridge-on-Sea with a deceptive serenity. The English Channel sparkled under a pale sun, its waves lapping gently against the Velvet Pier's weathered pilings. The town stirred slowly, fishermen hauling nets along the shore, while the Grand Eldridge Hotel's guests lingered over breakfast on its terrace, their chatter mingling with the clink of porcelain teacups. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in a cream linen suit, sat at a corner table, his moustache perfectly symmetrical as he sipped his morning tisane. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever his cheerful companion, was midway through a plate of kippers, his enthusiasm undimmed by the early hour. "Poirot," Hastings said, gesturing with a fork, "this sea air does wonders, doesn't it? I feel ready for a stroll along the pier, perhaps a spot of fishing later." Poirot's eyes, sharp as ever, flicked up from his cup. "Mon ami, the sea is indeed refreshing, but I advise caution. The pier, it holds more than fish. It holds secrets, I think." Hastings chuckled, assuming Poirot's cryptic remark was mere whimsy. But before he could reply, a commotion shattered the morning calm. A young pier attendant, no older than 20, burst onto the terrace, his face as white as the tablecloths. His uniform was dishevelled, his cap askew, and his breath came in gasps. The dining room fell silent, forks poised mid-air. "Sir Reginald," the attendant stammered, his voice cracking. "He's dead, murdered, in the pavilion." Gasps rippled through the guests. A woman dropped her teacup, the porcelain shattering on the stone floor. Poirot's cup paused at his lips, his gaze narrowing. Hastings, mouth agape, looked to his friend. "Good Lord, Poirot! Did I hear that right? Murdered!" Poirot set his cup down with deliberate care. "Oui, Hastings. It seems our holiday is at an end. Come, we must see this for ourselves." The news spread like wildfire, drawing a crowd to the Velvet Pier. Police constables arrived, cordoning off the bridge to the Harrington Pavilion, a glass-domed retreat midway along the pier, its octagonal walls surrounded by water on three sides. The pavilion was Sir Reginald's private sanctuary, accessible only by a single, sturdy bridge from the main pier, its door locked and guarded by an attendant. Last night, Sir Reginald had entered alone at 12:30 a.m., as confirmed by the night attendant, a grizzled man named Jenkins. Jenkins swore no one had approached the pavilion afterward, and the bridge's planks, slick with morning dew, bore no footprints. By a stroke of fortune or fate, Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard was vacationing in Eldridge-on-Sea, staying at a modest guest house nearby. He arrived swiftly, his familiar bulldog-like face set in a grimace as he spotted Poirot. "Well, well, Poirot, fancy you being here. A murder on a pier, locked up tight as a drum. Sounds like one for your little grey cells, eh?" Poirot inclined his head, a faint smile playing beneath his moustache. "Inspector Japp, it is a pleasure, though not under such circumstances. Let us examine this puzzle." The trio, Poirot, Hastings and Japp, crossed the bridge to the Harrington Pavilion, its glass dome catching the sunlight like a jewel. The door, heavy oak with a brass lock, was still secured from within. Jenkins produced the master key, and with a creak the door swung open, revealing a scene of grim elegance. Inside, the pavilion was a study in luxury. Polished mahogany panelling, a crystal chandelier, and a Persian rug that glowed with intricate patterns. At the centre stood a wide desk, cluttered with papers, a silver inkstand, and a half-empty decanter of brandy. Slumped over the desk was Sir Reginald Harrington, his silver hair matted with blood, an antique dagger from his collection protruding from his back. The blade, ornate with a jade handle, was lodged between his shoulder blades, the wound clean but fatal. His eyes, open and unseeing, stared at the desk where a half-written letter lay. "My dear, I cannot continue this deception." Poirot knelt beside the body, his gloved hands moving with precision. "The wound, it is not self-inflicted. The angle, see how it slopes downward? None! This is murder." He examined the desk, noting the letter's fresh ink but a curiously dry fountain pen. A broken pocket watch on Sir Reginald's wrist caught his eye, its hands frozen at 1:45 a.m. A faint scent lingered in the air, jasmine, delicate yet distinct. Hastings, peering over Poirot's shoulder, shuddered. "Ghastly business, Poirot. Stabbed in a locked room, no less. How could anyone get in? The door was locked, windows sealed. Look, not a latch out of place." Japp nodded, scratching his chin. "Coroner says death was around 2 a.m., give or take. No signs of a struggle, no footprints outside. Jenkins swears he was at his post all night. It's impossible, Poirot." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Impossible, you say?" "No, Inspector, nothing is impossible when one applies order and method. The locked room, it is but a challenge to the intellect." The police summoned the key suspects to the Grand Eldridge Hotel, where they gathered in the drawing-room, a cavernous space with velvet drapes and a roaring fire. Lady Evelyn Harrington, Sir Reginald's widow, collapsed into a chair, her emerald eyes wide with shock. She clutched a lace handkerchief, her raven hair slightly askew. "Murdered," she whispered. "My Reginald! Who could do such a thing?" Mr. Victor Lang, the business partner, stood rigidly by the window, his sharp features pale but composed. "A tragedy," he muttered, though his eyes darted nervously. Miss Eliza Harrington, the niece, wept openly, her bobbed hair falling into her face as she clutched a sketchbook. Thomas Black, the valet, hovered near the door, his war-wounded limp more pronounced, his hands trembling. Dr. Helena Voss, the archaeologist, sat calmly, her wire-rimmed glasses reflecting the firelight, her expression unreadable. Japp took initial statements, his notebook filling rapidly. Lady Evelyn claimed she had retired to her hotel room alone after the gala, with no one to confirm her whereabouts. Lang said he was at a late-night poker game in town, but one of his fellow players, a cousin, was deemed unreliable by Jap. Eliza insisted she had been walking the beach, alone, her alibi unverified. Black said he was in his quarters below the hotel, but as a staff member, he had access to a service key for the pier. Dr. Voss stated she was reading in her room, her alibi supported by a maid, but the maid, Poirot noted, was a close friend. Poirot paced the pavilion's interior, his eyes scanning every detail. The windows, high and narrow, were bolted shut, their frames untouched. The rug showed no signs of disturbance, but a single footprint, small and faint, marked the sandy boards beneath the desk. Too small for a man, perhaps? A cigarette butt, bearing the brand Lang smoked, lay discarded near the bridge, though Jenkins swore he swept the area at midnight. Poirot sniffed the air again, the jasmine scent stronger near the desk. "Curieux," he murmured. "This perfume, it is familiar." Hastings, ever eager, suggested, "Could it be suicide, Poirot?" A man like Sir Reginald, under pressure. Perhaps he staged it to look like murder. Poirot shook his head. "Non, Hastings. The dagger's angle, the broken watch, the letter, these are not the acts of a man ending his life. This is a performance, but not his own." Jap's men searched the pavilion's exterior, finding a loose plank beneath, where the pier met the water. Poirot inspected it, noting the rough seas below. No ladder marks, no signs of climbing. "A possibility, perhaps," he said, "but the water, it is too cold, too treacherous for a midnight swim." The letter intrigued him most. The words, "My dear, I cannot continue this deception," hinted at a secret. But the dry pen suggested it was written earlier, perhaps planted. Poirot tucked this thought away, his mind already weaving a tapestry of motives and means. As the suspects were questioned, tensions surfaced. Lady Evelyn's faint seemed theatrical to Poirot's trained eye, her jasmine perfume matching the scent in the pavilion. Lang's composure cracked when pressed about his poker game, his cousin's testimony wavering. Eliza's tears were genuine, but her sketchbook contained a detailed drawing of the pavilion's bridge. Did she know more about its access? Black's trembling hands betrayed fear, and a jasmine-scented handkerchief in his pocket raised Poirot's eyebrow. Dr. Voss's calm was almost too perfect, her alibi's flaw glaring. Chapter 3. Investigation begins. The morning sun climbed higher over Eldridge-on-Sea, casting long shadows across the Velvet Pier, where the air still carried the sting of salt and the weight of tragedy. The Harrington Pavilion, now a crime scene, stood silent, its glass dome reflecting the sky like an unblinking eye. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit pristine despite the chaos, stood at the pavilion's threshold with Captain Arthur Hastings and Inspector Jap. The police had sealed the pier's bridge, keeping curious onlookers at bay. But whispers of murder rippled through the town, drawing reporters and gossips to the Grand Eldridge Hotel's steps. Inside the hotel's drawing room, a grand space with velvet drapes and a marble fireplace, Poirot prepared to interrogate the suspects. The room was heavy with tension. The fire's crackle, barely masking the nervous shifting of those gathered. Lady Evelyn Harrington sat on a chaise, her emerald eyes red-rimmed, her raven hair pinned tightly as if to hold her composure. Victor Lang leaned against a bookcase, his sharp features taut, fingers drumming impatiently. Eliza Harrington clutched her sketchbook, her bobbed hair falling into her tear-streaked face. Thomas Black, the valet, stood near the door, his war-wounded limp subtle but noticeable, his hands clasped to hide a tremor. Dr. Helena Voss sat erect, her wire-rimmed glasses glinting, her scholarly calm a stark contrast to the room's unease. Japp, notebook in hand, addressed the group. Right then. We're here to get to the bottom of Sir Reginald's murder. Locked room, dagger in the back, no one leaves until we've answers. Monsieur Poirot's assisting, so mind your words. Poirot, pacing with measured steps, his moustache quivering slightly, spoke softly but with authority. Mesdames et messieurs, a crime has been committed, one most ingenious. A locked pavilion, a single entry, and yet a man is dead. I, Hercule Poirot, will uncover the truth through order and method. Let us begin. He started with Lady Evelyn, whose faint from earlier seemed to linger in her pallor. Madame, you retired to your room after the gala, oui? Alone, with no one to confirm this? Lady Evelyn's voice trembled, but her gaze was steady. Yes, Monsieur Poirot. I was overwrought. Reginald and I had words, not unusual, but painful. I loved him, despite what people say. Her fingers twisted her lace handkerchief, and Poirot noted the jasmine scent wafting from her, matching the pavilion's air. Motive, the vast inheritance, and whispers of an affair with a young artist named Julian Crane, seen dancing with her at the gala. Victor Lang was next, his scowl deepening under scrutiny. Mr. Lang, your poker game, Poirot said. It ended late, but your cousin's testimony is, how shall I say, unreliable. Where were you at 2 a.m.? Lang bristled, insisting he was at the game until 3 a.m., but Japp's constable reported the cousin had been drunk, casting doubt. Poirot's eyes narrowed at Lang's. Cigarette case. Same brand as the butt found near the pavilion. Motive, Sir Reginald's accusation of embezzlement, threatening Lang's financial empire. Eliza Harrington's interrogation was fraught with emotion. Mademoiselle, you walked the beach alone? Poirot asked, noting her sketchbook's detailed drawings of the pier. Yes, she sobbed. Uncle Reginald wanted me to marry some dreadful lord. I refused, and he threatened to cut me off. We argued at the gala, but I left. Her alibi lacked witnesses, and her knowledge of the pier's structure raised questions. Motive, resentment and financial desperation to fund her Parisian dreams. Thomas Black, the valet, spoke haltingly. I was in my quarters, sir, below the hotel. I swear it. Poirot pressed about the jasmine-scented handkerchief in his pocket. Lady Evelyn gave it to me. Weeks ago for a cold, Black stammered. His access to a service key for the pier was troubling, as was his gambling debt, which Sir Reginald had threatened to expose. Motive, blackmail, or fear of ruin? Dr. Helena Voss met Poirot's gaze evenly. I was reading in my room, as my maid confirmed, she said, her voice cool. But the maid's friendship with Voss weakened the alibi. Poirot probed her past with Sir Reginald, her jilted engagement, her recent plea for expedition funding denied. He betrayed me once, she admitted, but I moved on until he refused my work. Motive, a lingering grudge fueled by professional betrayal. Poirot stepped back, his mind cataloguing details. Hastings, Japp, let us examine the pier once more. The clues they speak, but we must listen closely. The trio returned to the pavilion, where the police had catalogued evidence. The dagger, the broken watch, stopped at 1:45 a.m., the half-written letter, my dear, I cannot continue this deception, and the faint footprint in the sand beneath the desk. Poirot knelt by the loose plank under the pavilion, where the sea churned below. A swimmer, perhaps? Hastings suggested. Poirot shook his head. No, the water is too cold, the current too strong, but this plank, it intrigues. He inspected the bridge, noting the cigarette butt with Lang's brand, though Jenkins, the attendant, insisted he swept the area at midnight. A red herring, perhaps, Poirot mused, or carelessness by the killer. The jasmine scent lingered in his mind, pointing to Lady Evelyn or Black's handkerchief. The letter's dry pen was another puzzle, written earlier, then placed. The footprint, small and delicate, suggested a woman or a deliberate misdirection. Back at the hotel, Poirot requested a timeline. Japp's men confirmed a brief blackout on the pier at 1:30 a.m., caused by a storm tripping the electrical system. Everyone had opportunity then, Japp grunted. No lights, no witnesses. Poirot tested alibis further. A hotel porter saw Eliza near the pier at 1 a.m., arguing with Sir Reginald before he entered the pavilion, her earring later found nearby. A plant or genuine clue? Lang's cousin admitted Lang left the poker game at 1:15 a.m., claiming a headache. Black's quarters were near a service stair to the pier, unguarded during the blackout. Voss's maid hesitated when pressed, hinting at coaching. A new clue emerged, a torn ticket stub in Sir Reginald's pocket, from a midnight pier concert 2 nights prior, with a cryptic note in pencil. Meet me at the Dome. 1. Poirot's eyes gleamed. This, it is not random. A rendezvous, perhaps, that led to death. Hastings, pacing, ventured a theory. What if it's a conspiracy, Poirot? 2 of them working together, say, Lang and Lady Evelyn, covering for each other. Poirot smiled faintly. Possible, mon ami, but the truth, it is singular. The clues, they point to one mind, one plan. Returning to the pavilion, Poirot staged a brief reconstruction. He asked Jenkins to lock the door as he had that night. The lock clicked firmly, no signs of tampering yet. Poirot tapped the floor, listening for hollow spots, but found none. He examined the chandelier, its crystals swaying slightly. Curieux, he said. This room, it hides its secrets well. As the interrogation resumed, Poirot noticed subtle shifts. Lady Evelyn's composure faltered when asked about Julian Crane, denying an affair too quickly. Lang's hands shook when the cigarette butt was mentioned. Eliza's sketchbook revealed a hidden sketch of the pavilion's understructure, suggesting intimate knowledge. Black admitted to minor theft from Sir Reginald's desk, pens not money, fearing dismissal. Voss revealed she'd been near the pier earlier, meeting a colleague, not for murder. Chapter 4. Clues and Red Herrings. By the afternoon of July 12, 1927, the Velvet Pier stood under a heavy sky, clouds rolling in from the channel, casting a grey veil over Eldridge-on-Sea. The Harrington Pavilion, its glass dome dulled by the overcast, remained sealed, a silent witness to the crime within. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit pristine despite the salt air, moved with purpose, his eyes scanning every detail of the pier as if it were a canvas of clues. Captain Arthur Hastings trailed him, notebook in hand, while Inspector Japp coordinated constables, their boots thudding on the wooden boards. The town buzzed with rumours, the murder of Sir Reginald Harrington fueling gossip in tea-rooms and pubs. Poirot, Hastings and Japp reconvened in the Grand Eldridge Hotel's drawing room, where the suspects awaited, their faces a gallery of unease. Lady Evelyn Harrington sat with forced poise, her emerald eyes darting to the door. Victor Lang's scowl was etched deeper, his fingers clutching a cigarette. Eliza Harrington's sketchbook lay open, her tears dried, but her defiance clear. Thomas Black, the valet, shifted on his bad leg, his eyes downcast. Dr. Helena Voss adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses, her scholarly calm unshaken but strained. Poirot addressed the group, his voice soft yet commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, the puzzle of Sir Reginald's death grows complex. Clues, they emerge, but so do the yidshaish distractions, the red herrings, as you English say. I, Hercule Poirot, will separate truth from deception. Let us proceed. The investigation deepened with a search of the suspects' rooms, conducted with Japp's oversight. In Lady Evelyn's suite, Poirot found a bundle of love letters hidden in a jewellery box, penned by Julian Crane, the artist from the gala. My darling Evelyn, leave him and be mine, one read. Her affair was no rumour, motive strengthened, inheritance and freedom to be with her lover. But a torn photograph of Sir Reginald kept in her drawer suggested conflicted feelings, a red herring of remorse. Victor Lang's room revealed ledgers tucked under a floorboard, showing debts of 50,000 unrelenting from failed Far East ventures. A note in Sir Reginald's hand accused Lang of embezzlement, confirming their rift. Yet, a receipt for a new cigarette case, dated the day before, contradicted the old butt found near the pavilion. Planted, perhaps? Motive: financial ruin, if exposed. Eliza Harrington's room held a surprise. Her sketchbook, already noted for pier drawings, contained a detailed map of the pavilion's understructure, including a trapdoor beneath the pier, sealed since the pier's renovation. I studied it for my art, she insisted, but her knowledge suggested access. A dropped earring, matching one near the body, was found in her bag. Carelessness or a frame? Motive: desperation to secure her inheritance. Thomas Black's quarters, sparse and utilitarian, yielded a duplicate key to the pavilion, hidden in a tobacco tin. It's old, from years ago, he stammered, claiming Sir Reginald gave it to him for errands. The jasmine-scented handkerchief in his pocket, linked to Lady Evelyn, was another thread. Poirot noted Black's gambling debts, listed in a ledger Sir Reginald kept. Motive: fear of exposure or blackmail gone wrong. Dr. Helena Voss's room contained a book on ancient poisons, its pages marked at arsenic. A curious find, since the murder was by dagger. Research for my Egyptian work, she explained, but her calm demeanour felt rehearsed. A letter from a colleague hinted at a secret meeting on the pier 2 nights prior, weakening her alibi. Motive: a grudge deepened by Sir Reginald's refusal to fund her expedition. Poirot returned to the pavilion, his mind a whirl of details. The faint footprint beneath the desk, small and delicate, pointed to a woman, Lady Evelyn or Eliza, or a clever misdirection. The ticket stub from Chapter 3, with its cryptic "Meet me at the Dome," he won, suggested a planned rendezvous. Poirot examined the pavilion's chandelier, noticing a faint scratch on its mounting, a clue or maintenance mark. The loose plank beneath the pier intrigued him again, but the stormy seas made swimming unlikely. He tested the lock, finding a faint wax residue inside, hinting at tampering. Japp's men uncovered a new clue: a monogrammed pen engraved with J.C. Julian Crane near the pavilion's bridge, overlooked earlier. Poirot's eyes gleamed. This pen is not here by accident. But is it a sign of guilt or a distraction? Hastings, ever eager, suggested, what if Crane's involved, Poirot? Lady Evelyn's lover sneaking onto the pier to confront Sir Reginald. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. Possible, mon ami, but the facts, they must align. Let us test these alibis further. Back at the hotel, Poirot staged a group confrontation, hoping to provoke reactions. He presented the earring, watching Eliza blanch. I lost it weeks ago, she protested, but her sketchbook's map suggested otherwise. Lang's cousin, re-questioned, admitted Lang left the poker game at 1:10 a.m., not 1:15, claiming to fetch a drink, but absent for an hour. Black's handkerchief was tested. It bore Lady Evelyn's perfume, but also a trace of creosote, a pier preservative. Had he been under the pavilion? Voss's maid, under pressure, confessed to lying about seeing Voss all night, saying she was paid to confirm the alibi. Poirot orchestrated a reconstruction of the blackout at 1:30 a.m. when the pier's lights failed. He stood on the bridge, timing how long it took to reach the pavilion in darkness. 3 minutes, enough for a swift entry if planned. A witness, a fisherman, reported seeing a small boat near the pier during the blackout, its occupant cloaked. Lang owned a yacht, moored nearby. Coincidence or clue? A surprising find emerged. A scrap of fabric, silk and green caught on a nail under the pier's loose plank. It matched a shawl Lady Evelyn wore at the gala. "Madame," Poirot said, holding it up, "how does this come to be here?" She gasped, claiming it was stolen from her room. Another red herring, or proof of her presence? Poirot's questions grew sharper. Lang admitted to arguing with Sir Reginald about the ledgers, but denied violence. Eliza confessed to sketching the trapdoor for a project, not murder. Black revealed Sir Reginald caught him stealing small items, threatening dismissal. Voss admitted meeting her colleague near the pier, not in her room, but swore it was unrelated. A subtle clue surfaced. The pavilion's clock, overlooked before, was set 5 minutes fast, stopping at 1:50 a.m., not 1:45 like Sir Reginald's watch. "Curieux," Poirot murmured. "A discrepancy in time. It is deliberate, perhaps to mislead." Hastings, flustered, said, "It's a tangle, Poirot. The earring, the pen, the fabric. Someone's planting these to throw us off." Poirot smiled faintly. "Oui, Hastings. The red herrings, they swim in schools. But the truth, it is a single fish, and I shall catch it." As the day waned, Poirot stood on the pier, the wind tugging at his hat. The clues, letters, ledgers, earring, key, fabric, pen, formed a mosaic, but gaps remained. The wax in the lock suggested a moulded key, but whose? The boat sighting pointed to Lang, but the footprint and fabric hinted at a woman. The ticket stub's note gnawed at him. Who was Meet Me at the Dome? One meant for. Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. By the evening of July 12, 1927, the Velvet Pier stood shrouded in a mist rolling off the English Channel, its lanterns casting hazy glows across the weathered planks. The Harrington Pavilion, its glass dome a ghostly silhouette, remained a sealed enigma, its secrets locked tighter than the door that had failed to protect Sir Reginald Harrington. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit slightly creased from a day of relentless investigation, stood on the pier's bridge, his eyes sharp despite the fading light. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever loyal, clutched his notebook, his face etched with worry. Inspector Japp, barking orders to his constables, was growing frustrated by the case's complexity. Inside the Grand Eldridge Hotel's drawing room, the suspects were restless, their earlier composure fraying like old rope. Lady Evelyn Harrington, her raven hair loosened, gripped a glass of brandy, her emerald eyes darting nervously. Victor Lang paced, his sharp features taut, a cigarette burning untouched in his hand. Eliza Harrington, clutching her sketchbook, seemed torn between defiance and despair. Thomas Black, the valet, leaned against the wall, his war-wounded limp more pronounced, his gaze flickering to the door. Dr. Helena Voss adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses, her scholarly facade barely masking a flicker of unease. Poirot addressed the group, his voice calm but piercing. "Mesdames et messieurs, the threads of this crime tighten, but new complications arise. The truth, it is close, but the path is treacherous. I, Hercule Poirot, will navigate it with precision. Let us proceed." The investigation took a perilous turn when Poirot narrowly escaped danger. As he crossed the pier's bridge to re-examine the pavilion, a railing gave way under his hand. Its bolts loosened. A deliberate sabotage. Hastings gasped, pulling him back. "Good Lord, Poirot! Someone's trying to stop you!" Poirot dusted his sleeve, his moustache quivering. "Oui, mon ami. The killer watches, and they fear my little grey cells." Japp ordered a sweep of the pier, finding a wrench hidden in a crate nearby, its handle smudged with creosote. A pier preservative, like the scent on Black's handkerchief. "This is no accident," Japp growled. "Someone's playing dirty." Poirot shifted focus to the suspects' relationships, sensing alliances forming. Lady Evelyn and Eliza, once distant, now whispered together, their shared grief over Sir Reginald seeming to bond them. Was it genuine or a calculated act? Poirot observed Eliza comforting Lady Evelyn, but her sketchbook, left open, revealed a new drawing. A coded diagram of the pier's understructure, with arrows pointing to a sealed trapdoor. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, holding it up, "this map, why conceal it?" Eliza flushed. "It's just art, Monsieur Poirot, I swear." A major twist emerged when Black, under pressure, confessed to a deeper secret. "Sir Reginald caught me stealing, not just pens, but papers from his desk," he admitted, his voice shaking. "They were about Lang's accounts. I thought to sell them." Poirot's eyes narrowed. The shim papers, retrieved from Black's quarters, confirmed Lang's embezzlement, but also revealed a scandal. Lang was entangled in an affair with Lady Evelyn, documented in coded letters Sir Reginald had intercepted. Motive compounded. Lang faced not only financial ruin, but exposure of his betrayal. Lady Evelyn, confronted, denied the affair vehemently. "Those letters are lies. Victor and I were friends, nothing more." But her trembling hands betrayed her. Poirot noted the jasmine scent on her stronger now, linking her to the pavilion's air. Lang, cornered, accused Black of planting the papers to frame him. "He's a thief and a liar," Lang spat. The accusation sparked chaos, with Black retorting that Lang had bribed him to spy on Sir Reginald. The room erupted, suspects shouting over each other, until Japp restored order. Poirot, silent, observed their reactions, his mind cataloguing every gesture. Dr. Voss's alibi unravelled further. Her maid, re-questioned, admitted Voss left her room during the blackout, claiming to meet a colleague for urgent business. Voss confessed, "It was about funding, not murder. I met a donor near the pier, nothing more." But a new clue surfaced. A coded note in her book on poisons, deciphered by Poirot, read, "Reginald knows." Silence him. Was it a red herring or proof of intent? Poirot returned to the pavilion, determined to crack the locked room mystery. The wax residue in the lock, noted in Chapter 4, suggested a moulded key, but a closer inspection revealed a faint scratch inside the keyhole, as if a tool had forced it. "Curieux," Poirot murmured. The lock was tampered, but from inside, how? He examined the chandelier again, noticing a hidden wire in its mounting, barely visible. A tug revealed it, connected to a pulley system, suggesting the chandelier could lower silently. A possible entry point? A fisherman's testimony added a twist. During the 1:30 a.m. blackout, he saw a small boat, Lang's yacht, near the pier, its occupant cloaked. Wet ropes on the yacht confirmed recent use. "Mr. Lang," Poirot said, "your boat, it was active that night. Explain." Lang stammered, claiming it was stolen, but his evasiveness deepened suspicion. The earring from Chapter 4, linked to Eliza, was re-examined. A jeweller confirmed it was a cheap imitation, unlike Eliza's originals, planted to frame her. The silk shawl fragment, matching Lady Evelyn's, bore traces of creosote, tying it to the pier's understructure. Black's handkerchief, also creosote-scented, suggested he or someone else had been beneath the pier. A startling discovery shifted the case. A hidden trapdoor under the pavilion, noted in Eliza's sketch, was unsealed, its bolts recently pried. It led to a narrow tunnel running beneath the pier to the hotel's basement. A relic of Victorian smuggling days, known only to the Harrington family. This, Poirot declared, is the key to the impossible crime. But who knew of it? Eliza denied using the tunnel, insisting her sketches were artistic. Lady Evelyn claimed ignorance, though her shawl fragment suggested otherwise. Lang's yacht could have accessed the tunnel's sea entrance, but the footprint, small, possibly female, pointed elsewhere. Black admitted knowing the tunnel from old staff gossip, and Voss, an archaeologist, might have deduced its existence. Poirot staged another reconstruction, timing a run through the tunnel during a simulated blackout. It took 4 minutes, feasible for a swift killer. But the chandelier's wire hinted at a second method, a misdirection to confuse. The killer, they are clever, Poirot said to Hastings. They weave truth and lies together. A final twist, the half-written letter from Chapter 2, "My dear, I cannot continue this deception," was in 2 inks, one Sir Reginald's, the other unknown. Poirot deduced it was started by Sir Reginald but finished by the killer to mislead. The ticket stub's note, "Meet me at the Dome 1," matched the second ink, proof of a setup. Hastings, overwhelmed, said, "It's a maze, Poirot. The tunnel, the chandelier, the boat. Someone's playing us for fools." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Non, mon ami. The truth hides in plain sight. The complications they clarify." As night fell, Poirot stood on the pier, the mist curling around him. The tunnel, the wire, the inks, clues pointed in multiple directions, but a pattern was forming. The killer had planned meticulously, using the blackout, the tunnel, and planted clues to obscure their path. Chapter 6. The Revelation. The evening of July 13th, 1927, draped the Velvet Pier in a heavy mist, the English Channel's breath curling around its lanterns like ghostly fingers. The Harrington Pavilion, its glass dome a muted glow, stood as a silent sentinel, its locked door guarding the secrets of Sir Reginald Harrington's murder. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit pristine despite the damp air, gathered the suspects in the pavilion itself, a bold choice to confront them where the crime occurred. Captain Arthur Hastings stood by his side, notebook trembling in his hands, while Inspector Japp positioned constables at the door, their faces grim. The air was thick with anticipation, the sea's rhythm a steady pulse beneath the tension. Inside, the pavilion's mahogany walls and Persian rugs seemed to close in, the chandelier's crystals catching the dim light. Lady Evelyn Harrington sat rigidly, her raven hair pinned tightly, her emerald eyes flickering with fear. Victor Lang, his sharp features pale, gripped a chair, his cigarette case untouched. Eliza Harrington clutched her sketchbook, her bobbed hair framing a defiant glare. Thomas Black, the valet, stood near the desk, his war-wounded limp barely concealed, his hands clenched. Dr. Helena Voss adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses, her scholarly calm now a thin veneer over unease. Poirot stood before them, his moustache perfectly symmetrical, his voice soft but commanding. "Mesdames et messieurs, the hour of truth has arrived. The murder of Sir Reginald Harrington in this locked pavilion is no longer an impossible crime. I, Hercule Poirot, have unravelled the threads of deception with my little grey cells. The killer is among us. Attend carefully." He began with a recap, his words deliberate, weaving the clues into a coherent tapestry. Sir Reginald was stabbed at 2 a.m., in a pavilion locked from within accessible only by a guarded bridge. The key was in his pocket, the window sealed, yet a dagger from his collection ended his life. A broken watch stopped at 1:45 a.m. A half-written letter. My dear, I cannot continue this deception. In 2 inks, a faint footprint, a jasmine scent, and a ticket stub with a cryptic note. Meet me at the Dome. 1. These were our starting points. Poirot paced, his eyes scanning each face. Then complications, a sabotaged railing, a secret tunnel from the hotel basement, a chandelier with a hidden pulley, a silk shawl fragment, a monogrammed pen, and a coded note in Dr. Voss's book. Red herrings abounded, the cigarette butt, the earring, the creosote-scented handkerchief. But the truth, it emerges through order and method. He turned to the tunnel, the key to the locked room mystery. The pavilion was not impregnable. A Victorian smuggling tunnel, known to the Harrington family, led from the hotel basement to beneath this very floor. Its trapdoor, recently unsealed, allowed entry during the 1:30 a.m. blackout when the pier's lights failed. 4 minutes, enough time for a determined killer. Poirot paused, letting the weight settle. But who used this tunnel? The clues point to one mind, one motive. Let us examine. He addressed Lady Evelyn first. Madam, your jasmine scent was in this room, your shawl fragment beneath the pier. Your affair with Julian Crane, confirmed by love letters, gave you motive, inheritance and freedom. But the torn photograph of Sir Reginald in your room, it speaks of guilt, not murder. You did not kill? Lady Evelyn gasped, her hand to her chest. I loved him, despite everything. Poirot turned to Eliza. Mademoiselle, your sketchbook's map of the tunnel suggested knowledge, and the earring near the body pointed to you. Your motive, financial desperation, was strong, but the earring was an imitation, planted to frame you. Your tears, they are genuine. You are innocent. Eliza sobbed, clutching her sketchbook. I only wanted to be free. Thomas Black was next. Monsieur, your duplicate key, your creosote-scented handkerchief, your theft of papers, they painted you guilty. Your motive, fear of exposure, was compelling, but the papers you stole were planted by another to distract. You did not kill. Black exhaled, his shoulders sagging. Thank God. Dr. Voss met Poirot's gaze. Madame, your coded note, Reginald knows, silence him, and your broken alibi suggested a grudge. But your meeting was with a donor, not a victim. The note, it was a misdirection placed in your book. You are not the murderer. Voss nodded, her lips tight. I knew you'd see the truth. Poirot faced Victor. Lang, whose scowl had vanished, replaced by a sheen of sweat. Monsieur Lang, you are the architect of this crime. Your motive? Sir Reginald discovered your embezzlement, 50,000 siphoned from Harrington Shipping, and your affair with Lady Evelyn, documented in his papers. Exposure meant ruin, financially and socially. Lang's voice was hoarse. You've no proof. Poirot raised a finger. The proof, it is in the details. The tunnel, you knew of it from Sir Reginald's old stories, confirmed by Eliza's sketches, which you saw. During the blackout, you entered via the tunnel, stabbed Sir Reginald with his own dagger, and exited, resealing the trapdoor. The chandelier's pulley, you rigged it as a false entry, to confuse. The watch, you smashed to fake the time at 1:45 a.m., but the pavilion's clock, set fast, betrayed you. He continued, relentless. The letter, started by Sir Reginald, you finished in different ink, planting the deception line. The ticket stub, meet me at the Dome one, you wrote to lure him, knowing he'd stay late. The cigarette butt, your brand, was dropped carelessly, not planted. The earring and shawl you took from Eliza and Lady Evelyn to frame them. The creosote on the wrench, you used it to sabotage the railing, fearing my pursuit. Lang's face crumpled. He would have destroyed me. The money, Evelyn. I had no choice. Japp signalled his men, who moved forward. Poirot held up a hand. One final proof. Your yacht's wet ropes, used that night to scout the tunnel's sea entrance, though you entered via the hotel. The wax in the lock. You tested a moulded key but used the tunnel instead. The footprint small, it was yours, in borrowed shoes to mislead. Lang collapsed, sobbing. I did it! I stabbed him! It was all falling apart. Poirot nodded, his eyes sombre. The grey cells, they triumph. Justice will be served. The constables cuffed Lang, leading him away as the suspects watched, stunned. Lady Evelyn wept. Eliza hugged her. Black exhaled in relief, and Voss adjusted her glasses, vindicated. Hastings, wide-eyed, clapped Poirot's shoulder. By Jove, Poirot, you've done it again. A tunnel, a yacht, a fake footprint. Brilliant! Poirot adjusted his hat. Mon ami, the truth is simple when the clutter is cleared. The human heart, it betrays itself in the smallest details. The pavilion fell silent. The seas murmur the only sound. The mystery, at last, was solved. Chapter 7. Justice Served. The morning of July 14th, 1927, dawned clear over Eldridge-on-Sea, the English Channel sparkling under a sun that seemed to wash away the previous day's shadows. The Velvet Pier stretched serenely into the sea, its lanterns gleaming, though the Harrington Pavilion remained cordoned off, a silent reminder of the tragedy within. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit impeccable, stood on the Grand Eldridge Hotel's terrace, sipping a tisane as he gazed at the pier. Captain Arthur Hastings, his faithful companion, sat beside him, his face a mix of relief and awe. Inspector Japp, his bulldog-like features softened by the case's resolution, joined them, his notebook finally closed. Inside the pavilion the previous evening, Victor Lang's confession had broken the tension like a wave crashing on the shore. Handcuffed and led away by Japp's constables, Lang's sharp features had crumpled, his defiance replaced by despair. I had no choice, he'd sobbed, his voice echoing in the glass-domed chamber. Reginald would have ruined me, my business, my life. The suspects, Lady Evelyn Harrington, Eliza Harrington, Thomas Black and Dr. Helena Voss, had watched in stunned silence, their own secrets laid bare, but their innocence confirmed. Now, in the bright morning light, the aftermath unfolded. Poirot, Hastings and Japp gathered in the hotel's drawing-room to tie up loose ends, the air lighter, but still tinged with the weight of justice. The room's velvet drapes were drawn back, letting sunlight stream over the marble fireplace, where a portrait of Sir Reginald, painted years ago, seemed to watch over the proceedings. Lady Evelyn, her raven hair loosely pinned, sat with a newfound calm, her emerald eyes no longer darting with fear. The revelation of her affair with Julian Crane had shaken her, but she addressed Poirot with quiet resolve. Monsieur Poirot, I was foolish, but I never wished Reginald harm. His death, it frees me, yes, but at what cost? Poirot nodded, noting her sincerity. The love letters, though damning, were not proof of murder, and her torn photograph of Sir Reginald spoke of lingering affection. She stood to inherit his fortune, but Japp confirmed she'd agreed to fund Eliza's Art and Voss's expedition, a gesture of reconciliation. Eliza Harrington, her bobbed hair framing a softer expression, approached Poirot, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. I was angry with Uncle Reginald, but I see now he wanted what he thought was best. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot, for clearing my name. The planted earring, a cheap imitation, had been Lang's attempt to frame her, exploiting her financial desperation. With her inheritance secured, Eliza vowed to pursue her art in Paris, but with a promise to visit Eldridge-on-Sea often. "Ill paint the pier," she said, a faint smile breaking through. "Not its secrets, but its beauty." Thomas Black, the valet, stood taller despite his limp, his war-wounded frame relieved of suspicion. "I stole those papers, sir. I admit it," he told Poirot, his voice steady. But it'd never have hurt Sir Reginald. He was hard, but fair. The creosote-scented handkerchief and duplicate key had been red herrings, planted by Lang to shift blame. Black's gambling debts were settled from Sir Reginald's estate, a clause in the will Poirot uncovered, ensuring the valet's loyalty was rewarded. Black would continue serving the Harrington family, his past forgiven. Dr. Helena Voss, her wire-rimmed glasses polished, met Poirot's gaze with gratitude. "You saw through the lies, monsieur. That coded note in my book, I'd never have written it." The note, Reginald knows. "Silence him" was Lang's forgery, planted to implicate her. Her alibi, weakened by her maid's confession, was restored when her colleague confirmed the peer meeting was about funding, not murder. Sir Reginald's will, revealed post-mortem, included a bequest for Voss's Egyptian expedition, honouring their shared past. "He hadn't forgotten me entirely," she said, her voice soft. Poirot, pacing gently, addressed the group. "Mesdames et messieurs, the case is closed, but the human heart, it reveals much." Monsieur Lang's greed and fear drove him to murder, but his plan, it was flawed by the details, the wax in the lock, the yacht's wet ropes, the letter's dual inks. These, my little grey cells could not ignore. Jap, sipping a cup of tea, chuckled. "You've outdone yourself, Poirot." A tunnel, a fake chandelier pulley, planted clues. Lang thought he'd outsmarted us all. But you're a marvel. Hastings, ever enthusiastic, clapped Poirot's shoulder. "By Jove, Poirot, it's like something out of a novel. The way you pieced it together, the ticket stub, the footprint in borrowed shoes, brilliant." Poirot adjusted his hat, a faint smile beneath his moustache. "Mon ami, the truth is simple when the clutter is cleared. The human heart, it betrays itself in the smallest gestures, the nervous glance, the careless clue. Lang's ambition was his undoing. The aftermath brought closure to Eldridge-on-Sea. The Velvet Pier, once shadowed by murder, began to reclaim its charm. The Grand Pavilion reopened for a charity concert, its chandeliers sparkling as if to banish the darkness. Lady Evelyn hosted the event, her elegance restored, dedicating it to Sir Reginald's memory. Eliza's sketches adorned the programme, a promise of her future. Black served drinks with a quiet pride, while Voss, preparing for her expedition, shared stories of Egypt with the guests. Jap filed his report, ensuring Lang's trial would be swift. Evidence, the yacht's ropes, the forged letter, the trapdoor's pry marks, was ironclad. Lang, awaiting transport to London, sat in a cell, his empire of deceit collapsed. Poirot and Hastings walked the pier one final time, the sea breeze crisp against their faces. The pavilion, now unlocked, stood open, its tragedy fading into memory. "Hastings," Poirot said, gazing at the horizon, "the sea, it is like life. Calm on the surface, but beneath the currents run deep. We have restored order, but the human soul, it remains a mystery." Hastings nodded, a touch wistful. "You're right, Poirot, but I must say, he'll miss this place, murder or no murder. Care for a scone before we leave? The hotel's got a cracking batch." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Non, mon ami, a tisane will suffice, but perhaps just this once I shall try your scone, for the sake of harmony." As they turned toward the hotel, the pier stretched behind them, its lanterns glowing softly. Eldridge-on-Sea would heal, its secrets buried with the tide, But Poirot knew other mysteries awaited, calling his meticulous mind to new challenges. The sun dipped low, casting a golden path across the channel, and the Velvet Pier stood as a testament to justice served, its shadows no longer menacing, but merely a whisper of the past. Chapter 8. Shadows on the Tide. The afternoon of July 15th, 1927, bathed Eldridge-on-Sea in a golden glow, the English Channel shimmering as if to cleanse the Velvet Pier of its recent darkness. The pier itself, stretching half a mile into the sea, gleamed with renewed vitality, its lanterns polished and its planks bustling with holidaymakers. The Harrington Pavilion, once a tomb of secrets, stood open, its glass dome catching the sunlight like a beacon of hope. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit as pristine as ever, strolled along the pier with Captain Arthur Hastings, his moustache twitching in the salt breeze. Inspector Japp had departed for London, his report on Victor Lang's arrest complete, leaving Poirot and Hastings to savour their final day in the seaside town. The Grand Eldridge Hotel, its red brick facade glowing in the sun, buzzed with guests, the scandal of Sir Reginald's murder already fading into gossip. The terrace, where Poirot and Hastings took tea, offered a sweeping view of the pier, its boards alive with laughter and the clatter of a distant carousel. Hastings, stirring his tea, grinned. "Well, Poirot, we've done it again, solved the unsolvable. I must say I'm ready for a proper holiday now. Perhaps a spot of fishing tomorrow?" Poirot sipped his tisane, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Mon ami, the sea is calm, but the human heart, it is never still. This case, it is closed, yet I sense a shadow, a whisper of something unresolved." Hastings chuckled, assuming Poirot's cryptic tone was mere flair. "Oh, come now, Poirot," Langs confessed. "The suspects are cleared, and the pier's back to normal. What's left to puzzle over?" Poirot's gaze sharpened, but before he could reply, a young porter approached, his face flushed with urgency. "Monsieur Poirot, sir, there's something you should see. Found it in the pavilion tucked away, missed it before." He held out a small sealed envelope, its paper yellowed with age, addressed to R.H. Sir Reginald Harrington, in a spidery hand. Poirot's fingers, gloved in white, took the envelope with care. "Curio," he murmured, breaking the seal. Inside was a single sheet, dated 10 years prior, written in Sir Reginald's hand. "To my trusted friend, the truth of the Velvet Pier must remain buried. The shipment of 17, none must know." A cryptic reference, and beneath it a tiny brass key, etched with a faint V. Hastings leaned closer, puzzled. "What's this, Poirot? A confession? Another crime?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Not a confession, mon ami, but a clue to a secret Sir Reginald carried to his grave. The shipment of 17, it is not part of our murder, but it casts a shadow. We must investigate discreetly." They returned to the pavilion, now unguarded, its interior serene yet heavy with memory. The mahogany desk where Sir Reginald had met his end stood cleared, but Poirot's keen eyes scanned its edges. He tapped the underside, finding a hidden panel that clicked open with the brass key. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages filled with coded entries about a 1917 shipment, smuggled artifacts not declared, tied to Harrington Shipping's early days. A single line stood out. "Voss knows, but her silence is assured." Poirot closed the journal, his mind racing. Dr. Voss, the archaeologist, her past with Sir Reginald, it runs deeper than a jilted engagement. This shipment, it was her discovery, perhaps her silence bought with promises. Hastings, wide-eyed, said, "Good Lord, Poirot, are you saying Voss was involved in smuggling? But she's cleared of the murder." Poirot nodded. "Oui, Hastings, The murder, it is Lang's doing. But this secret, it explains Sir Reginald's refusal to fund her expedition. Not spite, but fear of exposure. They sought Dr. Helena Voss, finding her at the hotel's library, her wire-rimmed glasses perched on her nose as she pored over maps of Egypt. She looked up, her scholarly calm faltering as Poirot presented the journal. "Madame," he said softly, "the shipment of 1917. What truth did you and Sir Reginald conceal?" Voss's hands trembled, but she met his gaze. "It was a mistake, Monsieur Poirot. During the war, Reginald's ships carried artifacts from my early digs, unreported to avoid taxes. I was young, ambitious. He promised to fund my work if I kept silent. When he refused my latest expedition, I suspected he feared he'd reveal it." Poirot's moustache twitched. "And the coded note in your book, Reginald knows. Silence him. It was not about murder, but this secret planted by Lang to frame you." Voss nodded, her voice low. "I never meant harm. His death, it shocked me, but am free of that burden now." Poirot closed the journal. "The truth, it is safe with me, madame. The past, it shall remain buried." The other suspects, too, were moving forward. Lady Evelyn Harrington, her elegance restored, hosted a memorial concert at the Grand Pavilion, dedicating it to Sir Reginald. Her affair with Julian Crane was over, she confided to Poirot, her heart now set on philanthropy. "He'll use his wealth for good," she said, her emerald eyes earnest. The torn photograph, once a red herring, was framed in her room, a symbol of closure. Eliza Harrington, her inheritance secured, booked passage to Paris, her sketchbook filled with new drawings of the pier, not its secrets but its light. She thanked Poirot. Her defiance softened. "You saw through the lies, monsieur. He'll paint something for you one day." Thomas Black, his debts cleared by Sir Reginald's will, remained in service, his loyalty unshaken. The creosote-scented handkerchief, a planted clue, was discarded, and his quiet pride returned. "He'll keep the pavilion tidy, sir," he told Poirot, a faint smile breaking through. The pier itself thrived, its scandal fading into local law. The Grand Pavilion's concert drew crowds, its chandeliers sparkling as if to erase the memory of murder. The Harrington Pavilion, now a family museum, displayed Eliza's art, a testament to renewal. Poirot and Hastings dined at the hotel that evening, the terrace alive with laughter. Hastings raised a glass. "To you, Poirot, and your uncanny knack for truth. But this shipment business, will you pursue it?" Poirot sipped his tisane, his eyes distant. "Non, mon ami. The murder is solved, justice served. This secret, it belongs to the past. The Velvet Pier, it has seen enough shadows." As they left the hotel, Poirot paused by the pier's entrance, where a new poster advertised the concert. A faint mark, a coded V caught his eye. Coincidence, or a final whisper of the past? He smiled faintly, saying nothing, and walked on. The sun set, casting a golden path across the channel. The pier standing as a monument to justice and secrets buried deep. Poirot and Hastings boarded their train the next morning, the sea fading behind them, ready for the next mystery to call. Chapter 9. Echoes of the Past. The evening of July 16th, 1927, cloaked Eldridge-on-Sea in a soft twilight, the English Channel reflecting the last hues of a fading sunset. The Velvet Pier stretched into the sea, its polished planks alive with the chatter of holidaymakers. As if the murder of Sir Reginald Harrington were already a fading tale. The Harrington Pavilion, its glass dome aglow with lantern light, stood open as a family museum, its dark history softened by Eliza Harrington's vibrant sketches on display. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit impeccable, walked the pier with Captain Arthur Hastings, his moustache twitching in the cool breeze. Their train to London was scheduled for the next morning, but Poirot's mind lingered on the Pier's secrets. Hastings, ever cheerful, adjusted his hat. "Well, Poirot, it's been quite the adventure. Lang's behind bars, the pavilion's open, and the scones here are top-notch. Shall we enjoy one last evening stroll?" Poirot's eyes, sharp as ever, scanned the pier. "Mon ami, the scones may tempt you, but the mind of Hercule Poirot, it is not at rest. The journal we found, the shipment of 1917, the coded V, there is more to uncover. The pier, it whispers still." Hastings raised an eyebrow, half amused. "Come now, Poirot, the case is solved." "What's this about whispers? You're not suggesting another murder, are you?" Before Poirot could reply, a young woman approached, her face pale but determined. It was Clara Jenkins, daughter of the Pier's night attendant Jenkins, who had guarded the pavilion the night of the murder. She clutched a small tin box, rusted at the edges. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice trembling, "Father found this under the pier, near the trapdoor, after you left yesterday. He said you'd know what to do with it." Poirot took the box, his gloved fingers tracing its surface. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was a small ledger, its pages yellowed but legible, and a single photograph of a young Sir Reginald with a woman, not Lady Evelyn, nor Dr. Voss, but a stranger with striking features and a knowing smile. The ledger's entries, dated 1917, detailed a shipment of artifacts from Alexandria, marked fee and valued at $10,000, smuggled through Harrington shipping. A note in Sir Reginald's hand read, "Vera's silence is my debt." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Curieux, Hastings. This Vera, she is the key to the shipment. Not Dr. Voss, but another, a shadow from Sir Reginald's past." They sought Clara's father, Jenkins, at his post by the pavilion's bridge. The grizzled attendant, his face weathered by years at sea, confirmed he'd found the box while repairing the loose plank noted in Chapter 4. "Didn't think much of it till I saw the V," he said. "Same as that poster you noticed, sir." Poirot recalled the coded V on the concert poster from Chapter 8, a detail he'd dismissed as coincidence. Now it pulsed with meaning. He and Hastings returned to the pavilion, its interior quiet, save for the distant hum of the sea. Poirot examined the ledger, decoding its shorthand. The 1917 shipment involved Egyptian relics, smuggled to fund Harrington Shipping's expansion during the war. Vera, whoever she was, had been a partner, perhaps a lover, whose silence Sir Reginald had bought. Hastings, peering at the photograph, ventured, "Could this Vera be the woman in the picture? And what's this got to do with Lang's crime?" Poirot nodded thoughtfully. "Lang's murder. It is complete. But this ledger, it reveals why Sir Reginald was a target beyond embezzlement. Someone knew of this secret, perhaps threatened to expose it." Poirot sought the suspects, now scattered but still in Eldridge-on-Sea. Lady Evelyn, hosting a charity tea at the hotel, dismissed any knowledge of Vera. "Reginald had his secrets," she said, her emerald eyes steady, "but I knew only his heart." Her sincerity rang true, her affair with Julian Crane now a closed chapter. Eliza Harrington, sketching on the pier, shook her head. Uncle never mentioned a Vera. But he kept old letters in the pavilion, maybe there. Her sketches, now displayed publicly, showed no coded V, but her knowledge of the pier's trapdoor suggested family secrets lingered. Thomas Black, polishing silver in the hotel staff quarters, recalled a name. "Vera, heard Sir Reginald mention her once, years ago, when I started. Said she was trouble, but he'd settled it." The creosote-scented handkerchief, a red herring from Lang, was irrelevant, but Black's memory hinted at a deeper truth. Dr. Helena Voss, packing for her Egyptian expedition, was the key. In the hotel library, Poirot presented the ledger. "Madame, the shipment of 1917, you were involved, but not alone. Who is Vera?" Voss's face paled, her glasses slipping. "Vera Linton," she whispered, "my mentor in Alexandria. She and Reginald smuggled artifacts to fund his ships. I was young, complicit, but swore silence. Vera vanished after the war. Reginald said she was paid off." Poirot pressed further. "And the V, her mark?" Voss nodded. "She marked everything. Ledgers, crates. When Reginald refused my expedition, I feared he thought I'd reveal her. But I never did. A new clue emerged. A letter in the pavilion's hidden panel, missed earlier, addressed to Sir Reginald from Vera, dated 1920. You owe me, Reginald. The pier hides our truth." Poirot deduced Vera had blackmailed him, perhaps triggering his paranoia, which Lang exploited. To test this, Poirot visited the local records office, finding Vera Linton listed as deceased in 1921, a drowning off the pier. Suspicious, he examined coroner's reports, discovering inconsistencies. No body was recovered, only her shawl, eerily like the silk fragment from Chapter 4. Was Vera alive, or was her death a ruse? A red herring surfaced. A local fisherman claimed to have seen a woman resembling Vera's photograph near the pier in 1926, but it was dismissed as a tourist. Poirot, however, found a hidden crate under the pier, marked V, containing a single scarab amulet, proof of the smuggled artifacts. Poirot gathered Voss, Eliza, and Lady Evelyn at the pavilion, revealing his findings. Mesdames Vera Linton's secret fueled Sir Reginald's fears. Lang, aware of it through stolen papers, used it to mask his motive. Vera is gone, dead or vanished, but her shadow drove this tragedy. The women, relieved, agreed to seal the secret. The amulet was donated to Voss's expedition, the ledger burned. The pier's history, though tarnished, would remain buried, its future bright. Poirot and Hastings stood on the pier at dusk, the sea calm. "Hastings," Poirot said, "the past, it shapes the present, but we must let it rest. The Velvet Pier is free." Hastings grinned. "Until the next mystery, eh, Poirot?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Perhaps, mon ami, but for now, a tisane, and yes, one of your scones." Chapter 10. The Tide's Farewell. The morning of July 17th, 1927, dawned radiant over Eldridge-on-Sea, the English Channel a mirror of azure under a cloudless sky. The Velvet Pier stretched into the sea, its polished planks alive with the laughter of children and the chatter of holidaymakers, as if the murder of Sir Reginald Harrington and the shadow of Vera Linton's secret had been swept away by the tide. The Harrington Pavilion, now a family museum adorned with Eliza Harrington's vibrant sketches, stood as a beacon of renewal, its glass dome gleaming like a promise of brighter days. Hercule Poirot, his cream suit immaculate, stood at the pier's edge, his moustache perfectly symmetrical as he gazed at the horizon. Captain Arthur Hastings, his loyal companion, adjusted his straw hat, a suitcase at his feet, ready for their train to London. Hastings, ever buoyant, clapped his hands. "Well, Poirot, what a week! A murder solved, a smuggling secret buried, and the pier back to its glory. I say, shall we grab one last scone at the hotel? They're the best on the coast." Poirot's eyes, sharp as ever, softened slightly. "Mon ami, your scones are a temptation, but the mind of Hercule Poirot, it lingers on the pier. There is a final note, a whisper of the past that calls to me." Hastings chuckled, assuming Poirot's cryptic tone was mere theatrics. "Oh, come now, Poirot. Lungs in irons, Vera's secret is safe. What's left to puzzle over? You're not hinting at another case, are you?" Before Poirot could respond, a young girl, no older than 10, approached, her pigtails bouncing as she held out a small, weathered book. "Mr. Poirot, sir," she said, her voice shy but clear. "I found this in the pavilion behind a display case. It's got your name on it. The book, a pocket-sized diary, bore a faded inscription. To Hercule, with gratitude, RH 1916. Poirot's fingers, gloved in white, took the diary with care, his eyes narrowing. Courier, Hastings. Sir Reginald knew me. This, it is unexpected. He opened the diary, its pages brittle but legible, revealing entries from 1916, when Poirot was a refugee in England, aiding wartime efforts. One entry, in Sir Reginald's hand, read, "Met a Belgian detective today, Hercule Poirot. His mind is sharp, his honour true. He saved my ship from sabotage. I owe him." Hastings, peering over Poirot's shoulder, gasped, "Good Lord, Poirot! You knew Sir Reginald. Why didn't you say?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "I did not recall, mon ami. It was a brief encounter, a moment of war. He was a merchant then, not yet a magnate. This diary, it is a personal thread, a debt of gratitude." Determined to understand, Poirot sought the pavilion, its interior quiet save for the hum of visitors admiring Eliza's art. Behind a display case, where the girl had found the diary, Poirot noticed a faint carving in the wood, a tiny V, like those on the ledger and poster from chapters 8 and 9. His mind raced. This V, it is not mere coincidence. Vera Linton's mark. It connects to Sir Reginald's past, and perhaps to me. Poirot and Hastings visited the hotel's library, where old shipping records were kept. A 1916 log, cross-referenced with the diary, revealed Sir Reginald's ship, the Eldridge Star, had been targeted by spies smuggling contraband. Poirot, then a consultant for British intelligence, had uncovered the plot, saving the ship. Vera Linton, listed as a crew liaison, was involved but spared prosecution at Sir Reginald's request. Vera, Poirot murmured. She was his ally, not just his accomplice. A new clue emerged, a faded letter tucked in the diary's back, from Vera to Sir Reginald, dated 1916. "Reginald, our debt to Poirot binds us. Keep this diary safe, lest our past surface." The letter hinted that Vera's silence about the smuggling was tied to Poirot's intervention, a favour Sir Reginald never repaid. Hastings, wide-eyed, said, "So, Vera knew you too. This is getting positively eerie, Poirot." Poirot nodded. "Oui, Hastings. The past, it weaves connections unseen. But is there more to this debt?" To test this, Poirot sought the remaining suspects, now settled into their new paths. Lady Evelyn Harrington, overseeing the pavilion's museum, welcomed Poirot warmly. "Monsieur, your brilliance saved us," she said, her emerald eyes bright. She knew nothing of the 1916 incident, but confirmed Sir Reginald often spoke of a Belgian saviour from his early days. Her philanthropy, funded by his estate, was her way of honouring him. Eliza Harrington, sketching near the Pier's carousel, showed Poirot a new drawing, a portrait of Sir Reginald with a faint V in the background, inspired by her uncle's old letters. "I found them in his study," she said. "He mentioned a Vera, but only as a friend. Her inheritance was secure, her future in Paris bright, but the V intrigued Poirot." Thomas Black, now head valet, recalled a 1916 story Sir Reginald told of a clever foreigner saving his ship. "Never said your name, sir, but it must have been you," Black said, his limp less pronounced in his newfound confidence. The creosote-scented handkerchief, a red herring, was forgotten, his loyalty rewarded. Dr. Helena Voss, preparing to depart for Egypt, met Poirot at the hotel's terrace. "The diary," she said, seeing it, "Reginald kept it to remember his debts. Vera was my mentor, yes, but also his confidant." Your role in 1916, I didn't know it was you. The scarab amulet from Chapter 9, now part of her expedition, was a gift from Vera, linking their past. A red herring surfaced. A local claimed to have seen a woman like Vera near the pier in 1926, but records confirmed her drowning in 1921 was staged. She had fled to France, her blackmail empty. Poirot deduced the diary was Sir Reginald's tribute to him, hidden to protect Vera's memory. At the pavilion, Poirot gathered Lady Evelyn, Eliza and Voss, revealing the diary's significance. Mesdame's Sir Reginald's past with Vera and me shaped his caution. Lang's murder exploited this, but the debt of 1916, it is repaid by your futures. The diary was donated to the museum, a quiet nod to history. As night fell, Poirot and Hastings stood at the pier's end, the sea a velvet expanse. Hastings, Poirot said, the past binds us, but the present frees us. The Velvet Pier, it is at peace. Hastings grinned. And you, Poirot, are its hero. Scone before we go. Poirot smiled.